The Cannabis Conversation. A European perspective on the emerging legal cannabis industry.
Welcome to the Cannabis Conversation with Anush Desai, where we explore the new legal cannabis industry by speaking to the professionals that are helping to shape it. Hope you're all well and that you've managed to survive January. I have just. All eyes are still on Germany, and I have to admit, it does feel in the balance on whether it will go through. I think the optimists and investors and public market CEOs all seem quite certain for obvious reasons, but I see the news reports, and I think the predicted timescales are now slipping more realistically to the end of 2024 into 2025. There are still a few objections from the EU and other member states which could slow things down. And there's an election in 2025, so the coalition government in Germany may not survive that. Lots of ifs and buts there, so watch this space. In more positive news though, the recreational pilot program started this week in Switzerland, in the city of Basel. Recent guest, Pure AG, Gavin George, will be supplying the cannabis for the experiment. And our friends from Cannavidia are working with the federal government with track and trace and compliance support. So I'm hoping to have the Cannavidia guys on the show in the next few weeks. And also great news that a recent meeting of the UN Conference for Trade and Development was held in Geneva, and that heralded a very positive recognition of hemp by the UN. This being that hemp can be a real catalyst for economic growth and development. That discussion was very much led by IA, who are the European Industrial Hemp Association. And again, I'm hoping to get someone from that organisation on the show soon too. So back to today's episode. Again, sponsored by our very good friends at Lumino. We are talking about Spain today. Lumino have worked with multiple cultivation, pharmaceutical and CBD companies in Spain, recruiting across the board for a wide range of roles, including senior cultivators, quality assurance staff, medical advisors, product development managers, and marketing and sales. They speak Spanish as well as German and English, so definitely have a very global outlook. And as I always say, they are the nicest people I know in the industry. So as always, if you need any help with HR or recruitment, please do get in touch with them at luminorecruit.com. And please do mention my name when you do. Now, on with the show. Enjoy. On today's show, I have Carola Pérez. Carola is president of dosemociones, who are a cannabis patient group in Spain. Apologies for the pronunciation. Carola is a leading patient activist in Spain and has many other roles as well, which she'll tell us about in a second. So welcome, Carola. How are you doing today?
Hi, Anush. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Pleasure to have you on the show, and it's been a long time coming. So I'm glad that we could talk about Spain. There's loads of stuff going on, and you're very central to a lot of the changes. So, you know, you're exactly the right person to speak to. But we'll get into the main topic in a minute. I think we usually start with just a bit about your personal story, actually. So what led you to be kind of working in this space and doing what you do?
Well, my story with cannabis started like 10 years ago. Because I'm a patient. I have been working in the music industry all my life, but due to my pain issues, I needed to make another life because I couldn't go on tour with this amount of pain. My story is that when I was 11 years old, I fell down and I broke my coccyx bone. So at the age of 18, they removed my coccyx bone, and after the surgery, I suffered from a very, very severe neuropathical pain. They damaged some of the nerves that are into this area. And after this, I have been into surgery 13 times because as the pain was so high, the doctors prescribed me so very high doses of opioids, anticonvulsivants, antidepressants, benzodiazepines, a lot of medications. So I have two overdoses, one with tramadol and the other one for Xanax, for clorazepam. Also, they tried two neurostimulators they put into your body in order to cheat your brain. So you have the feeling that you don't have so much pain. But the issue with these neurostimulators is that I'm very thin, and you have two devices in your back, and then like some cables that go to your nerves that are damaged, and they give you like a electronic signal to the brain, so the body can respond better to pain. But in my case, they didn't work. So this was 10 surgeries. And then because of the 10 surgeries, my skin was so thin that I suffer from ulcers. I have like a damage in my skin and I couldn't see it because the scars were open. So they have to make 2 other surgeries, very, very extreme, that the post-surgery was 3 months laying face down day and night without moving. So yeah, my situation is that I live with a very, very severe, strong neuropathical pain. Also have some fibromyalgia. Also hyperalgesia due to all the opioids I have taken all my life. And well, when I was in a situation when I had to quit my job, and I was asking my parents, please, this suffering is too much. I want to, please help me to die. Someone gave me some cannabis because I didn't like cannabis when I was young. It didn't work for me when I was young. I haven't used it as recreational use. I tried, but it didn't work for me. But yeah, I was older and I started to use like infusion milk with THC. And when I tried my first infusion milk, I felt a relief I never have felt before. I have taken more than 30 pills per day, So in that moment, I started to buy cannabis in the black market here in Spain. You know that we in Spain have a very huge black market. And I started to use cannabis, but I wasn't doing properly. But after trying and making mistakes, after the black market, I went to a cannabis social club here in Madrid, where I'm based. But the cannabis social club also was not enough because they didn't have any oral products. They only have like flowers to smoke in the beginning, no? Then I discovered the vaporizing. It changed my life completely. Then I started to know what's going on with the different strains, how to use it by topical, how to use it oral, how to use it vaporizing. And some years later, CBD coming to the States too. So yeah, I started using properly with all my colleagues and the people I was knowing. And after a time, I decided that the only thing I can do for feeling a little bit better and helping other people to find the relief that I received was not providing cannabis, because it's not what I do, but providing advice to help people to understand how cannabis work in patients, because we have other medications and we have other drugs in our bodies. So it's not like just working with THC or CBD. You have to work with opioids, with benzodiazepines. So the perspective of a patient is a little bit different. No, also if you work, if you drive, no. So that's why I founded dosemociones in 2014. And it's a patient association. We have been helping more than 2,000 people here in Spain. And after that, I started to talk to politicians and to some people from the institutions to say, hey, what's going on? Why this treatment is not available for us? So they told me that there was no clinical evidence. And this is the point where I reached Manuel Guzmán, Cristina Sánchez, Guillermo Velasco, some researchers, some doctors here in Spain, and we founded the Spanish Observatorio for Medicinal Cannabis in 2015. And from that time, I have been dedicating all my life to work with patients. I spend every day 4 hours talking to other people and then trying to change the law here in Spain. So this is a really, really huge work, because you are facing a lot of difficulties when you try to make cannabis, medical cannabis, regulated in Spain, because we have this contradiction of there is a lot of recreational use in Spain. We have the cannabis social clubs, the Spannabis, so many grow shops, etc. But from the other point of view, patients, we are not protected. So yeah, we started the political movement in 2017 in the Spanish Congress. We couldn't achieve it because we didn't have enough agreements from the deputies. So we try again in 2021, and we are in the process right now to finish the work. And also, apart from Spain, I have been working with the IACM, with the International Association for Cannabinoid Medicines, with Franjo Grothengermen. And I am working with them with communications, trying to help them with communications. And I'm the chair of the IACM Patient Council, where 20 associations from all over the world, we work together in order to don't feel alone in this path, because when you're a patient and you're doing this work, you have so many difficulties. That is something that you need to be in touch with your colleagues from Switzerland, Italy, France, Portugal, Greece, because UK, Latin America, the veterans from the US. So yeah, I think this is more than enough.
Yeah. There's so many questions. So yeah, this is brilliant. There's loads of questions I have. And I mean, I must say, and it's a great opportunity to say that I saw you speak. I think it's the first thing I ever saw at a medical cannabis conference in London at Cannabis Europa in 2018. And that was one of the inspirations for me to start this podcast after hearing you speak on the patient panel. So, and thank you for sharing your story. But I remember it very vividly because I didn't know what I was kind of getting into. I had no idea of the impact of cannabis as a medicine. And then you were up there with, I think, Charlotte Caldwell in Chelsea and a couple of other people. And it was all, you were all kind of, different backgrounds. And it was really, really powerful to hear how cannabis was helping with everyone's sort of different conditions and stuff. But yeah, to go back to your, all of your stories is pain, isn't it? What's your protocol now, if you don't mind me asking? Do you use different types or different strains or different formats? And also, are you still using prescribed drugs alongside the medical cannabis as well?
Yeah, of course, because when you have so much extreme pain, cannabis alone maybe doesn't work. So when I have the overdoses, I was able to quit all my medications, but in 1 month, I have to go back to them. This is like a very serious issue, because once you thought, okay, I'm free of drugs and I can live with cannabis, but then in 1 month, my pain started to be so high that I started again with opioids. But this time, you do it differently, because you have been an addict, you have been in high doses, and you already know because you have learned from your past. So now I have been using different opioids. Now the last one was fentanyl, but fentanyl has very, very bad side effects and didn't help me to eat or sleep or anything. And I changed into methadone, and methadone is also a very good opioid. It's cheap and in a very low dose. I take it 3 times per day. I also use some mirtazapine because I have difficulties to eat because of the pain. And because I don't have coccyx bone, I'm uncomfortable eating in seated. And I'm having 5 milligrams of diazepam because the abstinence, I cannot deal with the abstinence right now to let benzodiazepines now. But instead of using 12 milligrams of Xanax, I use 5 milligrams of diazepam. So the dosing is very important. Also, I have a capsaicin treatment 5 days ago in the hospital. And in Monday, I'm going to start ketamine IV for hyperalgesia and myallodynia for my clothes, to be able to be with clothes in the winter. So yes, of course, I work with both medicine and also cannabis and meditation. These are like the 3 main important things in my life. Deal with medication, deal with very good cannabis. For example, I have been on retreat this year, 30 days in complete silence with my lamas.
Wow.
And regarding to medical cannabis, I grow my own cannabis at home. I grow from 10 to 12 different strains. And I also use topicals. I do my own topicals because I make extract with ethanol. With my flowers, I make my oils. Then the oils go to Fundación Cana, and I make the analysis of cannabinoids and terpene profile. And then I can dilute and make the oils in different concentrations. Okay. So I combine topicals. I combine with suppositories in the vagina, ovulos. I combine with vaporizing as a rescue and with oils as a base medicine.
Wow.
So I try to use like all the ways I can. Also, sometimes I make only water infusion in order to get THC and CBDA, THCA and CBDA, because sometimes you can make infused milk and it's going to be high and everything. But sometimes I have Dustin Sulak. It was a guy who recommended me this because this was the typical thing that you say, okay, it doesn't help. But he told me, give it a chance, Carola. And I did it. So, yeah, depending on the day, Anush, and depending on my schedule, my agenda, how many interviews I have to make, if I have to travel, the meetings and everything, I have learned how to use cannabis in a very precise way.
Yeah.
And this is what I do in the patient association. Say to the patients, hey, cannabis can provide us a lot of ways of using it. So this is now how I found my balance.
Yeah. Wow. And I guess if you're in such sort of profound pain, you kind of really mapped out what works when and not to do too much in a certain time. And that is, that's the type of information that other patients can really benefit from. So it's great that you're sort of sharing that. In terms of your work, you talk a bit about, trying to speak to politicians and try and get them to change their mind and to change the law, which is obviously very important. But I mean, my personal observation of the industry over the last few years is that I feel like we really need to be convincing doctors as well. Is part of your work involved speaking to clinicians and doctors?
Okay. So yeah, in fact, we are now in collaboration to start 3 clinical trials in Spain.
Brilliant.
It's really amazing if you see it, because doctors come to us to ask what's the best strain and what are your recommendations, because I think this is the moment of history, Anush, where patients know more about the medicine that doctors do. For example, in Spain, because they didn't receive medical training in the university.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so happy that I can help patients day by day, like personal work, okay? But I'm also happy that I can be an important role in deciding what's going to be best for patients in clinical trials, no? So, yeah, this is the work I like to do, like being with patients, because we don't have any law. But in the meantime, try to work with societies of clinicians, for example, the Society of Pain, the Society of people who has damage because of accidents and they cannot move, maybe they're paraplegic, tetraplegic, things like that. And also for women with endometriosis. So yeah, we are working on that too, because I think that as much evidence and clinical trials we can do, more doctors are going to be secure and safe to prescribe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the data that we need, don't we? And they need really to get more on board.
And because it also helps the government and the doctors to provide products while we are waiting for the law in Spain to be real.
Yeah.
So all the paths go into the same way, but each path has its difficulties and joys and everything. So I try to make a balance between everything. But
sure.
It's so beautiful. I'm blessed of being in this. Sometimes I'm so tired because I'm so exposed in press, and each word you say and everything here in Spain. No, you are the main voice of patients here in Spain. So you have a lot of pressure, political pressure, with the media. Everything is like House of Cards with Game of Thrones. Like you're in the middle of this.
Yeah.
Because Spain is in the Congress. When you go to the European Union to make meetings and everything, it's more complicated than what people think and also me too. When I started, I didn't realize that this was going to be so difficult for us.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? And it's incredible what you do. I mean, on top of all of the things you have to manage around your own personal pain, it's amazing what you're doing in terms of advocating for others and helping others. And, to actually kind of, go to the main topic and to talk about what's actually happening in Spain. Like everywhere in the world, the situation is always a bit confusing and complicated when it comes to cannabis. And you've talked about the social clubs in Spain And, I think last year the government sort of finally opened up to legalizing medical cannabis, but obviously there's more details than that. Could you give us a brief overview of, the various bits of the sort of subsectors within cannabis? So, firstly, medical cannabis, what is the status and what's happening? And then maybe talk a bit about recreational and how that all fits together as well.
Well, I think it's important to realize that without the recreational movement, we couldn't be able to be here, okay? Because, for example, in Spain, like the first Cannabis Social Club opened 20 years ago. So I think this has made a good basement in order for patients to provide information, how to grow and everything. And they also make their own political meetings and everything. So this is complementary, that the things that we do.
How do they work? How do the social clubs work? Do you have to become a member?
Well, it depends where you are. For example, in Barcelona or Mallorca or Canary Islands, because you know that in Spain we have different regions, and they are like the governments are different, and then we have like the federal government. For example, in Madrid, the cannabis social clubs are really discreet. You have to be invited by a member, and this member is responsible of the use you made of cannabis. You cannot sell to third parties. No, you have to have your use has to be controlled. You cannot buy like cannabis every day. You have a maximum amount of grams per month. But the thing, Anush, is that, for example, we as patients, if you don't have any friend that is in a cannabis social club, you don't have anyone to get into them.
No, okay.
And because they are so afraid, maybe people say, hey, I'm a patient, and they want to go inside a cannabis social club, but the people has to protect very, very nice. They have to be really careful because they can go to jail. The cannabis social clubs, they are not legal in Spain. People think they are legal, but they are not.
Right, okay.
Okay, so it's a gray area.
So do the police sort of turn a blind eye to this then?
Yeah, but for example, in Madrid, what I suffer, and that's why I don't go to cannabis social clubs anymore, is because, for example, they put near the door when you go out, because you are supposedly to go to the club just to use cannabis inside, not to take it to your house. But everyone took the cannabis to your house, okay?
Yeah.
So sometimes the police go into the clubs, they stay in the door outside, and when you go out is when they stop you. And then the problems comes. Okay, they remove the substance. You have fines, very, very high amount of money. And for example, for me as a patient, it was really a stress that when I go to the club, my pain increases because the neuropathical pain depends on anxiety. So my cannabis social club was 1 hour from my house. So it's 1 hour and 1 hour back. And you smell a lot of weed.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful. And I think it's a situation when it's okay for patients if they don't have another way of getting cannabis, but I try to avoid stress as much as I can.
Sure. And so how does it tie into sort of medical and what is actually happening with medical in Spain?
Well, as I told you before, in 2017, we tried it once in the Congress, but we couldn't achieve it. And this time the government said, okay, let's do it. So we had a very, very strong and difficult negotiations because the government is made by some political parties. It's a coalition. It's not just one political party. And they were not the main responsibles. They didn't want to do it. It was an agreement we made with one of the political parties from Basque Country. And we have a very, very long period of discrete meetings with them. When we started the negotiations, we already know that the government didn't want some of the issues we were asking for. But yeah, finally they agree of making something. So we made this thing called subcommittee in the Committee of Health in Spain. Mm-hmm. And during 6 months, 26 experts came. I was one of them with Manuel Guzman. We were there and we talked to the politicians and they asked us questions and we replied them. And after this period of 6 months listening to people, then they made a proposal. And this proposal was voted in January, previous to Cannabis Europa last year. Mm-hmm. it was okay. We have the votes. But now it's like the government say to the agency, to the Spanish Agency for Drugs and Medicines, okay, let's make a plan. Okay. So from June to December 27th, they have 6 months for preparing this plan.
Mm-hmm.
But it's January and we don't have the plan. And we don't have the plan and we don't have any answers from the government. And the issue, Anush, is that we have elections this year in Spain.
Mm.
So if we don't solve it soon, maybe we're going to lose it.
Oh, it's politics, isn't it? They're just dragging their heels a bit. Are you hoping, obviously, that we'll hear something soon?
Yeah, I really hope that we have to receive this document in a few days. But the thing is that we don't know what's going to happen later with the document. If it has to go back to the Minister of Health, if we have to go back to the Parliament and to the Congress and make another vote, or it's going to be by law directly, so that there are many questions that today I cannot answer. I know a little bit of what's going on because I met, Manuel and myself met with the Spanish agency, and while they were preparing this document, and they told us that we are not going to be happy with the results, but at least they are going to make a move. And this, I can translate this. And this is going to be, for example, that flowers are not going to be at our disposal for vaporizing for the moment. Also, only the public health system is going to prescribe, not the private practices.
Mm-hmm.
The cannabis is going to be dispensed in hospitals, not in pharmacies near your house. So, yeah, there are some of our requests that they are not going to be satisfied. But you know what, Anush? It has been 7 years of a very strong fight, and are happy with one gesture. We are happy with one step.
Yes.
And then we can fight for more. But we need to secure this first step, because if not, if we are going to elections again and nothing happens, I don't know if I have the strength to do it a third time, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, I trust that at least I think the program is going to be very bureaucracy. It's going to be hard to get medical cannabis in Spain, but at least it's going to be, some patients are going to be receiving it, and also for free. Because one of the things that we have learned from other countries is that some people cannot pay for the cannabis treatment because it's not that cheap.
Yeah.
So in this case, if they provide you in the hospital, it's going to be for free. So I think that we are going to start with oils.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it's a good start. Also, we have fought for as many conditions as possible. Fibromyalgia, endometriosis, you know, some diseases that sometimes are forbidden, are forgotten when people make them, they have to choose which conditions are going to be included. So we lost some of our requests, but we won on others, like trying to include as many patients and conditions as possible.
Yeah.
So this has been the difficult, you know, like, okay, no flowers, of course, not talking about home growing on anything, but okay, if you give me this, please at least let fibromyalgia patients to be included, endometriosis patients to be included, some diseases that sometimes are forgotten and they are more into women's health issues.
Yeah.
And yeah, we fought a lot for this. So if we are going to lose some things, let's try to win on others. So this is the negotiations you do.
Yeah. And I guess you have to be sort of pragmatic about, you know, what you've been working so long. It's just a foot in the door, right? It's just the beginning. And once you can kind of do it, you can build from there, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things I have learned during these 7 years, that if we ask for everything, 100% is not going to happen. So it's like 100% or zero. Okay, I take 30.
Yeah.
Because 30 is more than zero, you know, and we need to make a move and put the step, as you say, in the door.
Yeah. And I think, you know, that's certainly hearing lots of stories about how progressive movements have happened. It is by breaking it down and getting some small wins to begin with and then building from there. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's the case. And I mean, you talked about home grow. I guess that's one of the things for the future that you'd like to see as well.
Well, the thing is that in Spain, you can grow at home.
Ah, okay.
You can grow at home as soon as you are growing just for yourself. No money in your place, no plastic bags, okay, no crime, like, like be discreet. Also, if the plants, they don't have to be seen by the public.
Yeah.
For example, in terraces or something like that. And so we thought when we were making the negotiation, you know what, it's better not to touch this, because if they don't recognize as the flower, they are not going to recognize home growing.
Yeah.
So let's keep things like they are, because it's more practical, than start making a conversation of something that is not going to be recognized by the government. So if they don't recognize me the power to use the flower and the vaporizing, how I'm going to fight for home growing, So we have to go step by step.
Yeah, that.
And I have been suffering a lot because some activists told us you are not fighting enough, blah, blah, blah. And it's like you don't have a clue of what's going on inside the Congress and the political parties.
Yeah, it's often hard to explain this kind of, patient approach, I guess, where taking it step by step, because everyone wants, particularly, patients who are suffering want the most access they can get, but you have to work within the system, I guess. And, it's interesting what you said around the payment aspects. Here in the UK, it's the patient numbers the official patient numbers are very low because it's all private clinics and that's expensive. Whereas I guess Germany's been more of a successful kind of blueprint for Europe, because I think, is it 80 or 90% is reimbursed through their insurance system. So
but the thing is that the bureaucracy that patients will have to deal with cannabis is so crazy, Anush.
Yes, it's crazy.
Why? Because I can get fentanyl in my pharmacy near my home in 5 minutes, or by benzodiazepines or whatever, but with cannabis, it's like it's crazy. The bureaucracy, the doctors, the companies, us, it's a lot of effort for everyone. So Let's try to make it as easier as possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so just as we kind of move to the end, it's worth talking a bit about Germany, if you don't mind. Like, do you have much of a perspective on what's happening in Germany, and not necessarily the detail, but do you think it's going to be quite important for Europe in general, the biggest country in Europe, if it actually makes big steps in favor of adult use or recreational cannabis? Do you think that will have a big impact?
Of course it's going to be important, because when you, for example, in the IACM Patient Council, when we talk to our German colleagues, they are happy but not with the model, okay? Because sometimes the press and everything say like the German model is role, but when you talk to the patients, you realize that some things are not properly think about the patient perspective. So I think that if patients have also the possibility of using the recreational use, is going to be huge. But regarding to European laws, if you want me to be honest, for example, we thought in Spain in 2017 that Germany will make Spain move forward, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So sometimes countries look at Europe when they want, but sometimes they don't. But of course, it's going to be a huge thing, and we are also with Franjo Grothengermen and our colleagues from Germany, we are talking like every week in order also to see if we can help and share information and to see what's going on, what the model is going to be, what kind of products and which producers, because these things, the devil is in the
Always.
details. So for us, it's really important to know what's going on in a deep way, not just reading the press. And because I don't know if you agree with me, but sometimes the press of cannabis, they don't give proper information. It's like you read the headlines, like Portugal has 50 licenses. Yeah, but what's going on with the patients? They only have flowers, really, really expensive, or sativex, and these licenses don't go to the Portuguese patients.
Yeah.
The same is happening in Spain. So I think it's really important that the press is really important for us, but also I think we have to have proper conversations of the reality of the
Yes,
everyday.
I totally agree.
So, but Germany is going to be a
Yeah.
point, and we are really, really hoping to see some things moving forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, cool. Thank you. And yes, I totally agree on the media side of things. Media reporting generally when it comes to science, but also to drugs is terrible. And sometimes the cannabis industry itself maybe focusing on some of the issues that maybe aren't the most important, but we can get into that as another topic another day. Carola, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here with you.
Likewise, and thank you so much for all the work you do. And like I said, on a personal note, I am a huge inspiration to me to get involved in this space. So I do really appreciate all the stuff that you're doing, and it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, and I hope to see you very soon in person.
Yes, I look forward to seeing you again. Take care, Carola.
Take care. Thank you.